I'd like to call the Ross Valley Sanitary District regular board meeting to order.
Hello,
Christina?
I have a point of information for the board. Director Borstein has requested that the board allow him to participate in the meeting remotely based on the Brown Act allowance for remote participation under emergency circumstances. Emergency circumstances mean a physical or family medical emergency that prevents a member from attending in person.
Okay. I move to allow Director Bornstein to participate in the meeting remotely.
Emily?
I move that we allow Director Bornstein to participate in the meeting remotely.
We need a second.
Oh, second.
Thank you. Director Borstein, is there anyone over the age of 18 in the room with you?
No, I am in a private room and I am completely by myself.
Thank you. Directors, please note that all votes will be made by roll call for the remainder of the meeting.
Okay. I'd like to call for the vote. Roll call vote, please.
Director Borstein,
Yes, please, and thank you.
Director Gaffney,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Meggs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did that count as a roll call or roll call vote? Kind of, yeah. Okay.
And we'll note that Mary Silla is not yet in the meeting in the minutes.
Now we adjourn to closed session.
Nailed it.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to reconvene to open session, and we have nothing to report. Item 6 is approval of agenda. We don't have other guests, so we might as well proceed, and we have a public hearing too, so unless somebody wants to change anything. No. Public comment time. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters?
Point of information, you didn't vote.
I don't think she started the recording.
I move the agenda.
Second.
Oh, yeah. Any further discussion? Oh,
No.
Okay,
Roll
roll
call.
call.
Director Borstein,
Yes,
Director Gaffney,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Meggs,
Yes.
Director Silla.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we go to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board of directors on matters within the district's jurisdiction, but not on the posted agenda may do so. Do we have any public as far as you? We don't have any.
Not at this
public.
time.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 8, committee and representatives report out. Finance Committee. Mary and I attended. Do you want to?
We reviewed many of the agenda items that are on the agenda tonight, but we did not have monthly financials because the annuals are being prepared.
Okay.
Everything seems reasonable.
Yes, we seem
From
to
the
agree with
finance.
everything on that seems to be recommended, but we'll discuss them more later.
Mhm.
Verbal report, committee, excuse me,
Central Man.
CMSA.
Okay. I'll do that. I had put an agenda item on CMFA called LAFCO study for the transfer of SRSD employees to CMSA. And as soon as the meeting started, the representative from SDSR requested that I remove that item because it wasn't clear enough. In his opinion, and Mary Beth joined Dean in that request.
Mary Beth probably more than joined Dean in that request as a person, another person attending the meeting.
Yeah. So anyway, Eli did not object to that. The request, I made it very clear. Well, first off, I made it clear that the entire San Rafael Sanitary District to CMSA in the San Rafael board meetings were as nebulous as this was. And all I'm asking for is a quick question of this guy, and you're having a whole, let's move the world and shake it upside down and see if it still works out. I'll turn it off. I'm kidding. Turn the sound off here. So anyway, we had the question go ahead. All I did was I had invited Jason Freed to attend the meeting. He's the LAFCO representative. I said, could you do a study on this? Because nobody has done a study on whether this is a good idea. Nobody that exists on the planet Earth from the Big Bang till right now. And maybe somebody should. He said he could and he would be willing to. He'd need a couple of things. It's not in their purview normally. So he'd have to put together what it would cost, because it would cost. And of course, San Rafael would have to be willing to cooperate. That was the end of that issue. So we moved on.
So what was the board's decision?
There was no decision. It was simply a question I asked of him. He's got to put together what the costs were. So we'd have to put it back on an agenda. We don't know what it would cost. We don't know that San Rafael would agree to cooperate.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I think he can't put a cost together until we come up with a scope of services.
No, I think he can come up with a scope of services himself.
Well, I don't. I
Okay.
think, we need to add, I don't want to have a complete broad study. I want to, I think some specific questions would be best. And then it probably wouldn't cost as much either.
Well, maybe,
Although, I don't know. Well, we'd have to approach him to find out.
well, I've been talking to him. Maybe we could put a subcommittee or an ad hoc subcommittee on this for two of us to do that.
Well, I'm on their contract committee, and we're talking about Central Marin now, so I can talk about that. They've got a draft contract all set for tomorrow.
I'm not surprised. You told me they were.
Yeah, that's what I said. And it's got some holes in it, things to fill in. It's got some kind of preposterous proposals, in my opinion. And I suppose we should give our attorney a copy right off the bat. But this is proceeding pretty fast to a contract.
And what are some of the holes? Do you want to talk about them or?
Well, one of them is a indemnification by CMSA to San Rafael Sand. I just got the contract today. Our meeting is tomorrow. An indemnification.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry.
To hold.
Can I interrupt 1 second? When we had our original meeting on that at CMSA, we agreed that they would be fully compliant with the Brown Act. So that means they have to give 72-hour notice. Did they not send it to you in 72 hours, or just not have an opportunity to take a look at it?
They didn't have it.
Well, then they can't have that
Well,
meeting.
they didn't. They distributed it this afternoon.
You can't do that. They said they would be. We can look at the movie, the filming of the movie. They said it would be fully and completely compliant with the Brown Act.
Is that true, Andrea? They need to attach the contract?
No, the compliance with the Brown Act means you have put the agenda out 72 hours in advance. You can give additional materials to the board members between that time and the board meeting, so long as you simultaneously make it available to the public.
Yeah. So Tiffany Elam's email on Monday noticing the meeting is how they complied with the Brown. I think it was Monday.
Yeah.
Maybe it was.
Mhm. And today I got all of the packet material. Anyway, the one that I find very onerous is that SRSD will, whatever you call it, compensate CMSA, but the reverse is true. CMSA will compensate and reimburse, indemnify, that's what the word is, indemnify San Rafael Sanitation District for any fault, rules for fault that CMSA makes that, San Rafael has to pay for. So we're 50% of that committee. We would be indemnifying San Rafael Sand if one of, I think, their employees, who's an employee of Central
I hear
Marin,
you.
does something. And hey, they're out in the public there. I find it an extremely onerous provision that we couldn't possibly agree to. That's my opinion. And there's other things that are, it's a very complicated proposal. I've sent, well, I guess I should send the CMSA board members on our committee, everything I got.
Doug, were you going to talk about the easement issue?
I'm still on this.
Okay, sorry.
In my
Sorry,
mind,
I got sidetracked.
I think I'd like you to make the point that we expect all materials to be presented at least 72 hours.
I'll make the point that I need more time than that.
Well, they should put the staff report out with the agenda. Okay. The Oak Hill development, well, we also accepted the paving on the property has been completed, and so that's good. There's an Oak Hill project sort of on the opposite side, closer to CMSA than our Larkspur property, which is going to be a nonprofit. While this would be a perfect opportunity for them to use recycled water, they don't plan on double piping, so there's no chance. There's also can you explain better than I the
There's easements there.
the easement we have there and what it's for?
There's
CMSA easement, but you know about it.
There's more than one easement. Actually, RVSD has an easement for the force main, for the 54-inch force main that goes right through the center of the San Quentin Gun Range property on which Oak Hill development is proposed. This land is on state property, and that's why it's being brought forward for affordable housing development. So there is the force main, and there's a recycled water line at 6-inch diameter that goes the other direction in this same easement that SD2 and RVSD have, and then CMSA has an interest in. And that CMSA is responsible for some of the maintenance of the appurtenances in this easement as part of the JPA. Also, the second easement is for an odor control facility. And it's a dosing station where a highly toxic hydrogen peroxide is used to neutralize odors. And there's a certain distance within the pipe it needs to travel to be effective in reducing odors by the time the raw wastewater reaches the CMSA treatment plant headworks to be effective. And so it has to have the travel time. And there's actually even more odor control facilities throughout our system going up to pump station 13. There's I think it's nitrate dosing that helps with the chemistry of the wastewater and helps reduce odors. Well, the odor reduction actually is really for the benefit of this area of San Rafael. The canal area is affected by potential odors, and so it's actually a significant environmental justice issue to make sure that the odor control is in place and not altered. And it requires some access because the only trucks that can deliver the hydrogen peroxide are larger and need
5,000 gallon, I think we said.
they need a certain turning radius. So there needs to be a certain footprint that we're currently using to effectively, implement the odor control.
And they're not going to give us that easement because according to them, we don't legally have the easement for where the truck needs to circle. We only have an easement right next to the unit. And so they're
Being the state,
the state and the developer. The developer doesn't want to give us any land, anything that,
well, he doesn't own the land, does he?
right, but the state is siding with him. And so we can't put 5,000 gallon trucks. The vendors could get smaller trucks to come up from Los Angeles, making it 80% more expensive for us to do that. So it's really a real problem. And so the developer is asking us to do all sorts of stuff and spend all sorts of money, which, I don't think anybody at CMSA is really that interested in. But there is that pipe, and there was a possible proposal to put a pipe in a pipe. And to get the hydrogen peroxide in that way, but that's extremely risky. And I don't think the State Water Board is going to go for it, personally. They might, but it seems really odd. They use that recycled water pipe to replace the pond water at Remillard Park when it's low, and that's what it's there for. Again, it could be used in future for this very same Oak Hill development. They're not interested in using recycled water, which seems, odd. And so, we'll see where that goes. So I don't know what'll happen there. That's a real problem. I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot because that odor control and odor at their property, it's as well. So, it just seems like,
Well, it benefits the disadvantaged community here in San Rafael, this odor control system. It's pretty important. And also the pipe within a pipe would reduce the capacity of the recycled water line, which would limit the ability for recycled water to be delivered to the RVSD property when it is developed for housing. This is something, I think there needs to be a multi-objective discussion with all the stakeholders around this infrastructure and not have the tail wag the dog with this. We're not saying the housing development isn't important, but it has to be developed in a multi-objective manner. And I will say that the developer has been receptive to input that we provided. Actually, we provided input about the force main easement and the importance of access to that vital facility. And the developer moved the footprint of the building so that it was above the tunnel instead of above the pipeline. So actually they have been receptive to input. It's just on this latest issue, we're a little concerned that they're not finding a compromise to make sure that the odor control facility can be operated in a cost-effective manner.
Yep. Thank you.
What about buying a new truck? A smaller truck?
Well, we're not the ones providing this. These are our vendors.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
They explored that thoroughly, Director Gavney. Yeah, and as Director Kelly mentioned, it's more expensive to CMSA to pay for the smaller truck.
And having attended the meeting, because Director Borstein couldn't, I would say also, I was just struck how there has to be a legal answer to how much you can, obstruct an easement before you have to figure out who bears the cost of that. And everybody was basically like shrugging. And I said, if you have an easement and you put up a wall, and so then I have to buy a ladder to get over the wall, what's reasonable? How much does that how much do I have to spend for that ladder, or do you have to pay for that ladder? And everybody was like, well, we don't know. So anyway, I referred Jason to Riley Hurd, who's conflicted out because he works for the developer. And then I texted him your number, but I presume anyway, there needs to be a legal analysis of this. CMSA Director Bushy was saying, well, let's just say we'll pay $50,000 to start doing an exploratory study. And I think that was voted yes upon.
At the GM's discretion.
Okay. And Jason's not in favor of it, but she's like, well, let's just, $50,000 isn't very much money. And I said, well, if we find out later it's not our legal responsibility, we're not going to see that money back, I don't think. So why are we? So anyway, there's sort of an impetus on the board to move this forward at the developer's pace. And nobody has done the legal analysis of what are the rights and responsibilities when it comes to this easement. And I presume that the easement mostly is for CMSA. Our easement is like a smaller piece of this pie, right?
The easement for the infrastructure is quite large. It bisects the property for the RVSD SD2 force main. It's like a big stripe through the middle.
Yeah, we saw drawings of that.
Right. And then there's a rectangle that is an easement around the odor control facility and the adjacent parking.
Oh,
is
so
that
that's
over our pipeline?
It's adjacent to and maybe over it slightly. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and they're going to build a road snaking over the force main, but I guess we don't mind that because we can maintain the force main.
Yeah, as in those discussions, that's an example we give is like they wanted to put buildings above
Right.
it. And I
Okay.
said, no,
Okay.
that doesn't really work.
Got it.
But we admit that bike lanes and roads are above our force main. And we, as long as we can access it, we'll be fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
also
Sorry for butting in.
changed officers. I was chair of the commission. Eli is now the chair. Dean would be vice chair. So the way it works, and this was a compromise that we gave them. Really, when Larkspur came off, we should have had Larkspur's seat back, but we compromised on that and went to 5, even though we pay half. And then there was some discussion as to Dean should be the chair forever. And I didn't really understand the whole concept of that. But we compromised again. And so rather than have it go along the board, it just goes among the 3 board agencies. So it's Corte Madera, San Rafael, Ross Valley, Corte Madera, San Rafael, Ross Valley. So that was a compromise. So anyway, it's Eli. We looked at the proposed business plan. We talked about board meeting format options. This came up because of the things that are happening in some of the other boards, including one I saw recently in Fairfax, where they're getting racist comments on Zoom. And so there were some different options, and I didn't have my whole board packet, to be frank. Like, I left the entire thing on my desk at home, so I had to reprint mine, and I just reprinted the two front pages. But the options were only allow comments in person, continue along what we're doing, which is we're allowing comments. I had a suggestion that, and I think it was there, that the comments on people who are Zooming in but not in person would have to be a Q&A with the moderators, because there's a different thing between a Zoom meeting and a Zoom forum. I think it's a forum? Webinar. And with the webinar, you can have questions and answers. They don't necessarily get seen by the public, or is it the comments that don't get seen by, well, anyway, one of those two. And so the Supreme Court has allowed anonymous speech. That's true. But the Supreme Court has also determined that in order to do the business of public agencies, you may limit comments to things that are under the purview of that agency. So race hate is not something that we're in charge of here. And so you could simply say, the board clerk or the board president, chair could look at the chat and say the next person's question is not under the purview and just skip it. So we decided for the time being, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, which, I think that's the best. Either what I just discussed or doing it the way we are is in the best interest of the public. Okay. And that was about it. Those are the big items.
North Bay watershed.
We met July 12th. It was at the Napa Sanitation District. We had a meeting, or short meeting, and a tour. The one item that we did talk about was a guest presentation overview of direct potable reuse, which is called a DPR study. And that was done by Chris Francis, Operation Director of the Napa Sanitation District. He presented recently a completed advanced water treatment feasibility study, which analyzed options and costs for implementing a direct potable reuse project in Napa. We also had a special meeting because we forgot to put, Jean forgot to put something on the agenda. This is about the, hold on one second. So we had a contract since 2000 with the Water District, and they did all our treasury services for the North Bay watershed. Something happened. I don't know what. Maybe but there's been a cutoff, divorce. I'm not sure what happened. So Jason was very sweet and wonderful to offer CMSA to sort of help us transition. And so I have the contract if you want to look at it. And we voted on it. It was acclamation vote. And basically, we're just transferring all our services as we had before. However, there was a $3,000 cost, I guess, to set up the software. and everybody's happy. That's it. And there's no meeting in August.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, verbal report by GM.
Yes, thank you, Secretary Gaffney, acting president. Appreciate you helping out with the meeting this morning or afternoon or evening. Where are we? So I've got 4 things. It should be very brief. First, Larkspur Landing. What's the latest there? We did hear from Riley Hurd, and he reported that the city of Larkspur is now responding to a July 1st letter they received from the Housing and Community Development Department, HCD, who is the oversight for housing element approval under the new set of affordable housing regulations. And they expect to have the following hearings to adopt the housing element and assorted rezonings and CEQA on August 13th. The Planning Commission is to be held at the Redwood High School because of anticipated community turnout. So that's August 13th. And then the City Council is scheduled to hear and adopt the housing element on September 4th. So previously the date of July 17th was given, but only a couple of days ago it was updated to these revised dates. So hopefully we'll see some movement there, and then that will line up with our efforts. I can say that Century Urban and our team is actively working on a illustration that translates the proposed housing element changes and the objective development standards into something visual, so the board can visualize what these rules translate to on this property. And Felicia and I have met with that team on the site and Paul helped out to describe what our needs are in association with Pump Station 10. So it's coming together, and we're excited to be able to start showing that. And then, we'll take it from there. We actually think that the Surplus Land Act process, which you've had a taste of last month, can kick off toward the end of this year if everything lines up and the city of Larkspur meets its deadline, its proposed dates.
It's not not necessarily a positive thing that they need a high school gymnasium to hold a crowd.
Well, yeah.
And it's not
about our property.
It's not about our property at all. Yeah. Okay. Second thing, speaking of Surplus Lands Act, 2960 Kerner. The notice of availability was published on June 28th, thanks to efforts of our board clerk, Christina Winicky, over here off camera. And to date, we have received no inquiries from affordable housing developers.
Remind me, is it 90 days?
Or no, 60 days.
60.
Okay, from either affordable housing developers or public entities that are specified in the Surplus Lands Act. So
what was the start date again?
June 28th. So it's a 60-day period to hear from those type of entities, and that would take us to about August 27th thereabouts. Where if we receive no inquiries, then we can entertain pretty much from anybody. So if we do receive inquiries, then it could kick off a 90-day period of negotiation with those entities. So stay tuned, but so far nothing has come forward. Third item, in June, you approved and awarded a contract for the 1111 Anderson Generator Project, and we're moving forward. We met with the contractor on site and came up with a routing plan for the conduit that'll be minimally disruptive and cost effective. So we're making progress there. And then finally, want to highlight 2 end of year metrics because, June 30th is the end of the year, end of the fiscal year. And so that's when we kind of tally everything up. And so first, I have to report that we recorded 8 spills this last year, which is a new record low for Ross Valley Sanitary District.
Looking Looking at you, Paul.
Our previous low was last year at
Oh.
9. So we went down a little bit. But we really take every one of these very seriously and find out ways, and it gives us insight into how we're doing our preventive work. And so we'll be excited to report on those initiatives that come out of what we learn when we still get spills.
What was a recent high? I mean, like 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 8 years ago or
Well, let's see if I can go off of
Well, we get excited when we have no spill months, right? So that's a minimum of 12.
yeah.
17.
Yeah, we had 19 a couple of years ago, and we had 38 in 2017, 2018. So we went 38, 26, then 13, 14, 19, 9, 8. So,
Oh.
so it's overall, it's a good,
And last year was 9?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, and we really haven't had large volume spills. You know, the last time we had any large volume spills was during the storm of October 24th, 2021, which was, almost 3 years ago. So
Was that
Backing up
right
in
at
my
your-
bathtub.
when you first got here?
no, that was 2019. Yeah, January
Yeah.
2019. That was a construction related mistake. Yeah. So that's all good news. And we're moving, so far so good this year, right? And we also, I just wanted to report that we used 393,000 gallons of recycled water last year, which was our second highest amount since we began in 2019. Our highest amount was quite a bit more that year where we had almost mandatory use of recycled water because of the drought and almost running out of water in Marin County. So that's kind of an outlier. So I would just say that it's good news that we're making good on our commitment to maximize, recycled water use within what is cost effective for us. And I appreciate Paul's support of that goal. And I appreciate this counselor's purple jacket to commemorate all of our recycled water use.
Is that a purple pipe jacket?
Official, yeah, or magenta or whatever. Yeah.
It's the same dye lot.
Yeah. So, yeah, things are going great there. And that's it for my report.
Okay, thank you. Item 10 is verbal report by board members and a request for future items. What was that about the Central Marin getting a committee together to?
Yeah, maybe we should have a subcommittee to talk to Jason Freed. But here's the thing: you're telling me they got a contract ready.
Yeah.
Do I think that San Rafael is going to cooperate with a study because they have to?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
No,
They're not going to.
no.
We could put it. I could ask Eli to put it on the CMSA agenda, and at least we've put it on the record that we think somebody should study this before we sign contracts and get going, because this could all. I don't think it's a very good idea, but more importantly, it could all blow up CMSA. When we first talked about this the first time in May, I said, CMSA is a unbelievably great run agency, and Mary Beth said, yeah, that's why we picked them, which was an intentional slap. That was not a mistake. That was an on purpose slap. But it's not a well-run agency as a collections agency. It's not a collections agency at all. Jason Dow, who I love, doesn't have thousands of customers. He has 3. He's going to find out that he's got thousands of customers. He's going to learn a lot of things. And, my point is, it's a really well-run agency now. They're going to take this mess and they're going to dump it in his lap, and it's going to affect CMSA. So I think we should have a study.
There's not a doubt that it's going to affect CMS.
Yeah. Nobody seems to want to, does San Rafael agree to have a study? I guess.
Well, I think if we can get 3 votes and have, Eli say, listen, it's a condition of signing the contract.
Should we not be talking about this?
You're drifting a little away from whether there's a proposal to put an item on this agency's agenda
No,
as opposed to CMSA's.
I think we need to put it over there. So let's move on.
We do tend to drift.
Um,
But
Hey,
you-
listen,
I'd like to.
very shortly, I'm going to turn off my video for about 2 minutes while they check some stuff here. But I am online and I didn't sign off.
Okay.
Okay, great, Michael.
I'd like us to consider putting on our agenda a look at the JPA agreement. And I wonder whether a majority vote of the JPA can make a decision to change the scope of the JPA or to interpret the scope of the JPA. Does that sound too far afield?
Or
Okay.
could we request our council
Yeah,
to look at
yeah.
that?
I mean,
We have to put that on the agenda, though.
because the
Okay.
three votes, having attended the meeting, my concern is that 3 votes at CMSA are going to dramatically change the scope of the services of the JPA that we're a member of.
Mhm.
And we can't do anything.
And we pay
about it.
half the bills.
Yeah. And yeah. So yes, Andrea.
Well, we pay a proportionate amount of the bills, but
It's getting, well, we're getting it down. It used to be half. It's 42% now about.
Sounds like your question is whether the proposed action would amount to a change that would require a vote of the JPA members because it would amount to a modification of the JPA agreement itself.
yeah, in other words, we have to modify the agreement to,
Or there's a question as to whether you would have to, or whether the proposed change would still be within the
And
scope
and
of
are
mission
and I don't know
regulations.
anything about JPA law,
Mhm.
but does it need to be, is there a situation in which it would have to be a unanimous vote for the JPA to be able to do something?
change a contract. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, under the JPA law, when you modify the JPA amendment, it has to be through, all of the members have to agree to it
Okay.
because they're all parties to the JPA agreement. So I think you could put an item on your agenda on this topic
Okay.
to, educate yourselves about what to take to CMSA or how to think about whether that might be necessary in the future. Sounds like that hasn't come up at the CMSA board.
Nothing's coming up this
I don't
CSA
think
board.
we need it. Can't we just instruct staff to do a legal review? Get a-
Sure, I'd be happy to take a look at the JP agreement. Yeah. That doesn't have to be on your agenda in order to
Okay.
do that. But if
Okay.
you want to talk about it in an open session, it's a little more comfortable for me from a Brown Act perspective if you agendize it on your agenda rather than covering it in the CMSA committee report out.
Right, right.
So that would be my recommendation. If you're going to want to talk about it, you might as well put it on your agenda.
Okay. But we don't have to put it on the agenda for you to start working.
No, I'm happy to look at it.
Okay. And we don't have much time because we
That's
think
what I'm
that they're going
saying.
to present, I know, they're going to present a contract for approval at the next meeting of CMSA, which is before our next meeting, correct?
Well, it's a possibility, or it's going to be the meeting after that.
Okay.
That's my guess.
So I guess I'd love to get a legal analysis of that before the CMSA meeting if possible. And then consider calling a special meeting for us to discuss it if we need to.
Yes.
Great.
When is the CMSA meeting? The one tomorrow? Oh,
No, that's the
Okay.
ad hoc committee meeting,
Okay.
but the Thursday,
Hang-
Second Tuesday of the month.
third Tuesday, that's right.
Isn't that it?
I can tell you what it is.
so
Peter
the
just wants to
August
Yes.
CMSA. meeting. Okay. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, any other,
say. CMSA is the 13th of August.
it's the second Tuesday of the month.
That's the 13th. That's correct. And that's the 6th. That's the 13th.
Any other, Pam, do you have any? No, okay, great. Let's move on to item 11, consent calendar. Matters listed under this item are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. The consent calendar may include resolutions. Anyway, we have to approve by roll call vote.
Anybody need
Members?
to?
I have nothing to pull. I'd be prepared to move that we approve the consent.
I have one question.
Okay.
One of these on the consent is a resolution. We need to do a
Roll call vote.
roll call.
We're going to do a roll call vote.
Oh,
You
because
will do
Michael's
one on consent. So yeah.
did somebody move consent?
I moved.
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Director Borstein,
Yes, ma'am.
Director Gaffney,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Meggs,
Yes.
Director Scylla,
Yes.
Okay, item 12 is a public hearing. Conduct public hearing, consideration of adopting resolution 2416 58, approving report of sewer service charges for fiscal year 24-25 and directing filing of charges for collection by the county tax collector. Steve, could you please give us a little background? Oh, no.
Did you open?
Oh, I didn't open it. I'd like to open the public hearing. I thought I did. Steve, could you give us a little background?
Yes, thank you, Secretary Gaffney. Each fiscal year, the board must approve a report of sewer service charges for the current fiscal year and authorize the submission of the charges to the County of Marin for inclusion on the annual property tax bills. And so this year, you adopted Ordinance 102 in May that sets the stage for the 5 years of proposed sewer service charge increases. But this is the first of the 5 years. And so on the property tax rolls, these sewer service charges are collected, and annually, as required by code, the report is prepared with a description of each parcel of real property subject to the sewer service charge and the amount of the sewer service charge for each such parcel. And so we don't have that on the online version of our board packet, but it is, the physical report is here and available for review by the public and by the board. It's 394 pages long.
Why is it not on the website?
Because it's 394 pages long.
Apparently
It's not in the board packet.
Oh, it's not in the board pack, but is it on our website?
No, it's the list of, yeah.
It's a list of all the properties.
Oh, a listing of all the personal, oh, no, you
It's
wouldn't
a
want to put
list
that
of
on there. Okay.
every parcel that's being.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, okay. I got it.
So
Steve, I will now open the public hearing on this item. Any member of the public interested in commenting are invited to the podium to comment or may raise their hand online, and the board clerk will allow you time to speak.
There are no public online.
There are no public. Since all the commentators are done, I hereby close the public hearing. Is there any additional discussion by the board? I just have a comment.
I don't have any comment or question.
My comment is, as chairman of the finance committee, I annually review this report, and it was presented to me a while back. 16,500 parcels, and we're collecting a total of 28.85 million, which is quite a bit. And we do this mainly because it's the most efficient and cheapest way to collect our money. So it's a very efficient program. We've been doing it for years. Those are my comments. Are we ready for a motion? Somebody like to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we adopt resolution, just making sure we're on the right one. Yes, 24/1658 with myself signing as the board treasurer in lieu of the board president, approving the report of sewer service charges for fiscal year 24-25 and the direct filing of charges for the collection by the county tax collector.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Michael's the second. Michael's the second on that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Director Borstein,
Yes.
Director Gaffney,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Meggs,
Yes.
Director Scylla,
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
Excellent.
Okay, item 13 is our annual consideration of electing board officers, representatives, and committee members for fiscal year. And the way we should do that is, I believe, people express interest in certain positions. That would be nice. And we could have a nomination and a second, and then we would save them all till the end and have one roll call vote.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay, so let's go through this. We need to elect a president.
So I would move Thomas Gaffney.
Actually, I think it's Mary's turn.
Okay.
Do we have, I would,
I move Mary Scylla.
it is, I'm sorry, Mary.
That's okay.
So then I have that backwards. So I would move Mary, and then Where's that put you, Tom?
Is there
I
a
think I'm
second on,
secretary right now.
on Mary?
I am secretary.
Pardon me?
a second?
Well, let's just
Oh,
do president first.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah, I thought that went up that other way. I thought Tom moved up and then Mary moved up and then I would treasurer. Don't I follow you?
You follow me.
I follow you. Okay.
I'm getting food.
Okay.
Michael follows Tom. I follow Mary.
So Mary is,
Can you help me out?
you nominated Mary.
All right.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Anybody else? No. Okay, secretary. I nominate. And let's see, I guess it'd be Michael. It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Are you nominating me?
Huh?
Are you nominating me?
Okay, I'll nominate Doug.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Treasurer. That would be Michael. I nominate Michael.
Second.
We were discussing whether we need alternate secretaries and alternate treasurers, but I think we should do it.
And I want to, just a point of information, want to acknowledge Christina Winnicke's efforts to do the board staff report and pointing out that when the board policies were updated to policies and procedures in January of this year, it was proposed that the positions of alternate secretary and alternate treasurer would be removed.
Okay, that's what I remember hearing, thinking that.
And I'd move that change.
Well, we've already done it, right?
Okay.
We've already done it. Okay, CMSA commissioners, is there interest?
I would like to continue to serve.
I would like to serve for 1 year.
Okay,
Director Borstein assenting.
okay, well, I move
Michael?
Doug,
Absolutely. I move Doug and Mary.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And CMSA alternatives,
It's everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. I move that. Remain the same.
yes. CSRMA,
I
Michael and Pamela,
I move that we not change anything there. Do
keep that.
we have a second?
Second?
Okay.
North Bay Watershed,
I move that we don't make any changes there.
yeah, I'll second
We'd
that.
like-
Second.
Okay.
Board committees, standing finance, I'd like to be on that.
Okay.
And usually the president,
I will be on that.
okay,
That'd be Mary.
Mhm.
I would second that.
okay. Ad hoc, HR, Mary and Michael. Is that okay?
I'm happy to stay with that. And
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Ad hoc.
I'd
oh,
second that.
are you
I'm
frustrated with us, Andrea?
No, I just wanted to make sure you all saw the proposals 1, 2, and 3, which changes the,
It should be a standing committee.
yes, the
Ooh.
proposal is that the ad hoc HR committee change to standing.
Oh, thank you.
And there's a couple of other proposals that we're happy. to
Does that
walk
mean
through,
it
but they're just
meets
It should be at this point.
monthly?
Oh,
Okay, thank
no,
you.
it can still be as needed.
Okay,
It just because it has continuing jurisdiction, it should be standing at this point.
okay. Does that,
So we're
what
gonna
does that
to
change about,
standing.
what else does that, is that just a change in name?
It means that it should have an agenda and follow the Brown Act.
I see.
Okay.
That's-
We did.
That's Christina's
allow for-
department. I wondered if I had to do anything different.
Ad hoc education and outreach.
Pam?
And I'm Doug and Pam.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'd move that we don't make any change there.
Okay, I second
Do
that.
I- Okay. The facilities should change to a Kerner Facilities Committee, not a ad hoc as the building has been built.
Hmm.
Okay, Kerner,
Kerner
Oh, yeah.
Facilities Committee.
I thought you were coming up with that on your own. Now I see it in the staff report.
But it
But you
isn't.
still don't know I didn't come up with it on my own. There's no proof I didn't come up with it on my own.
I think the proposal is that also that it not be standing.
Yeah.
Because the idea is to have a committee to discuss the disposition of Kerner, and then once it's done, that committee ends. So it would be an ad hoc.
Right.
It wouldn't be standing, just to be for the record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And-
sometimes we discuss things here about, that all come to the board after that.
And-
So
and-
I don't know why we just don't consider it the ad hoc facilities committee and keep it that way. We
Because-
might do the same
be-
with Larkspur Landing.
Because then it's really a standing committee and it should follow the Brown Act. If it has continuing jurisdiction over all facilities,
Okay.
the idea is
I'm
that
just
if
talking
it's,
about changing the name. Ad hoc facilities committee.
but if it
That makes it
looks
sound
like
like
a
it's
standing
gonna
committee and sounds
survive.
like a standing committee, then it is a standing committee regardless of what you call it.
Okay. So you just want to change the name?
Oh, you wanna change the name
The
and
proposal is
change
to
what it
change
does.
it to Kerner.
It's Kerner. It's not this building.
The need for the facilities committee has now changed from one building to another.
Right.
And when we name the building, that kind of conveys that it's time limited. So
Yep.
what we got to figure out what to do with that building.
Once that building's
That keeps us
gone,
out of the Brown Act.
that
Okay.
ad hoc committee goes away.
All right. Michael and I'd like to be on that because.
I would move that you be on that.
Okay.
And wait a minute, do we have a second?
Second.
Second,
Thank you.
And how about the ad hoc annual business plan?
I'd like to stay on that.
Yeah.
Is that a standing committee?
So the proposal, this is number 3 for both education and outreach and the business plan committee. The proposal is that they each stick around for one more year and then go away, or next year for this
Because it's
conversation,
standing.
you can talk about whether you want them to be standing.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we do meet
Well, if then, and if they have continuing jurisdiction, then they should be treated as a standing committee. We thought the staff proposal was there were plans that had been adopted, but there may be a continuing need to oversee those particular plans, which would allow them to continue to be an ad hoc committee. So that was the proposal, but you guys can do something different.
I think it should be a standing committee.
Yeah, I do too.
All right.
Got all these things.
We do it every year.
Time.
It isn't, we don't.
Okay, so I'd move that Pam and I remain and then it become a standing committee.
second,
Second? Okay. All right. I think that's it. Is that it?
Are you okay with that, Christina? I mean, I think there's an argument that each one is for the business plan of that year. So it isn't really continuing. And I don't know how often they meet, but anyway, it's a
Probably
wobbler, as we like to say. And if Christina doesn't mind noticing it.
Okay. So we have motions and seconds on all of those.
And I would move that we now take a roll call.
Okay. Do you, board secretary, do you have all those?
Yes.
Okay.
I wrote them down as well.
Okay.
Direct-
I have a motion to vote on all of them by roll call vote.
Second.
second,
Oh, wait, you need a motion on the motion, or are we just voting on all
Now
of
we
those
can
as
vote
a
on
slate?
all of them. Roll
On all
call
of them.
vote.
You
Okay.
can just vote on all of them.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Borstein,
yes, ma'am.
Director Kelly, I'm sorry, Director Gaffney,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Meggs,
Yes.
Director Silla.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. It's board compensation. Now let's go to 14A, the performance metrics.
Yes, and Paul's been waiting patiently here to give you some highlights. I already gave you the big highlight, which was finishing off the year with our record low spills and some continuous improvement in recycle water use. But there's other things to report.
Maybe we could move the metrics up to right after the GM's report too,
Yeah.
later.
Hi, good evening, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you to all you distinguished board members and Steve and Felicia for giving me the resources and the tools to get us down to these record spill lows. It's taken a lot of work, but like I said, the new equipment, the pumps, the everything, you guys have facilitated for us, the pump station 15 pump rebuilds. It all really leads to a dependable system that we're really trying to tighten up and make it the best it can be. So I want to start off by saying thank you to all of you. Felicia, thank you in the back. It means a lot because it's a lot of work, and we want to make sure that you guys are fully informed of everything we're doing. But yeah, so it was really good to see this number come up, and we're hoping for better numbers to come. Pump station crew, we've been doing a lot of summer preventative maintenance. Pump station 12 and 14 last month. Staff recently just did clean the grit pits, which is a sort of a wet well before the wet well to help drop out heavy solids and grit and grease and whatnot. So they work to clean those out in the summer before wet weather, before it gets washed into the pumps and into the system. So not a real pleasant job, but it's one that's necessary. They've also been doing preventative maintenance at 10, 12, 14, and some of the other smaller stations. So cooking right along. Line maintenance crew has been doing a really good job keeping up with their flushing schedule, and we're really working to review that. And a lot of that is the operator's notes out in the field. What we're seeing gets reported back to their supervisors, comes back to us for compliance issues. And staff working around 5 Bonaire Road in Larkspur has been receiving baskets full of latex gloves. So we did a little investigation. There's actually a medical building in the area. So there's dental, medical, all kinds of different stuff there. So we did some outreach, spoke to the property management. I spoke to some of the medical staff there, and we're going to hand out some pamphlets there, what's acceptable to flush and whatnot. So we're really trying to use the outreach to inform people so that they don't just keep throwing their gloves down. Well, medical staff, see a good, easy way to get rid of them, but it's not good for our system at all. So, yeah, so we're doing a lot of outreach with them. We're going to follow up. If we keep seeing it, we'll increase our informational awareness. In this year's effort to reduce high frequency cleaning, there was a report in May about what the system review and how we're going about our flushing program. One of the big tasks is just identifying what's the problem with the high frequency lines. Is it roots? Is it cracks? Is it sags? So we've really focused in on some of our higher priority lines and some of the major causes. And in June, the maintenance or the repair crew alone fixed 6 sags within our system, which will hopefully ultimately be able to pull those lines off high frequency and set them back to a standard maintenance, which will hopefully keep the efficiency up of the cleaning. One of the lines was over here by the Country Mart, by the other property over here, 10 feet deep, and a 12-foot sag that they fixed on our own. Staff dug down, brought in shoring boxes. So they've been doing a lot of good hard work out there. They're really working hard to help reduce the flushing needs out in the system. So I really wanted to tell you about that. And then condition assessment has, as you guys know, has been taking over service calls. I've been working with the flushing supervisor, Raphael, and the service calls are really pulling line cleaning out of the field, having to pull up, get it set up their setup. So we shifted that to CCTV. We've seen an enormous increase in our line flushing. And CCTV has been doing a great job. They had 4 calls for 34 hours. The major cause of the hours for that was the one spill we did have in June. It was a Cat 1 on Poplar Drive in Kentfield. It was a smaller spill, 44 gallons, but of course this pipeline follows a creek right down. So a lot of investigation, a couple repairs, a lot of cleanup and stuff like that. So, but it's been really well. And again, I want to thank you guys for all your support, and Steve and Felicia for helping work these operational changes into the district. And it seems to be making a real big difference. So I do want to say thank you.
What was the structural issue there?
It's an AC pipe. And it had a full circle crack all the way around, like it had shifted the joint, but it's like hairline. So it was a small drip coming out. So we've set patch repairs in there. And then I'm working with Phil Benedetti We're actually going to add a manhole and most likely do a form and fit liner through that just to help secure it, make sure it stays through the winter and stuff because it is in an active creek bed.
This site is not amenable to pipe bursting. It's just there's no place for us to dig a pit, and we're in a creek, so we have to be a little creative about what we can do. So yeah, fold and form liner technology from Mixus International or whatever they're called. Mixus. MSI. Yeah.
That part of Hospital is steep. It's like 81 road.
That was right in the draw,
It's right in between. It cuts down through the
like
valley,
Arroyo
kinda-
Drive. It's, where Arroyo is?
It's right at 137 Poplar.
There was a rod hole that was in the creek that we discovered through this investigation. And so we got rid of it. But there's a good chance, we look at that and think, oh, okay. Because you remember the Laurel Grove project about 4 years ago, we upgraded the whole trunk line system down Laurel Grove and some of the side streets. And yet our monitoring study that we did in 2023 showed still some problem with peak flow, even though we did all that work. So it's one of the branches to that system that wasn't rehabbed. And it turns out it's, right in the creek. So I think it was bringing in a creek level of flow into our
It
system.
was like a full 6-inch straw sucking it.
Fill in the whole thing.
If I can just comment for a second, and Tom knows John Gladish, and that was his property, and he actually called me, I believe it was on a Friday evening, and said he smelled something, and so I told him to call the district. And after the district responded, he called me and told me the most pleasant, professional, fabulous service he's ever received.
Oh,
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, we had a spill or something up at right where I live at 49 Laurel Grove, and I'm 51. Of course, they listed it Kentfield because Google lists us as Greenville. Anyway, they did a great job up there, but nobody commented. They were really helpful and friendly and figured out the problem. I wanted to comment on pipe cleaning. Fiscal year to date, you did 1,050,000 feet of pipe cleaning. That's 199 miles.
Wow. That's almost,
We have a 200 mile system.
you didn't get to the last mile?
No, some of them were done twice. Is that right?
Yes, some are done twice just due to the high frequency. So they're done twice a year, but
So basically the whole system.
Yep.
That speaks to Paul's efforts. That I was noting, and you'll see it in the metrics report in October when we summarize all this, but we were getting more like 800,000 feet a year last few years. And then we were falling behind and having to do overtime to catch up. And so his efforts to try to create more efficiency on what we clean translate into more getting done, and also getting service calls out of the line maintenance crew, all these things. Now we're back up to 1 million feet. So thanks for pointing out that number, because we were at 1 million feet 2 or 3 years ago, but this is where we want to get back to. So I think we're on the right track, and that helps us prevent the spills.
I remember we went to CASA one time and some agency had a metrics report, and they used to have a collection system meeting in the morning. And I think Michael and I came back, could we get a metrics report? And we've been working on a lot. Ours is way superior than any of them.
Yeah.
Orders of magnitude. It's really a fabulous
amazing.
metrics report, and we appreciate it. So terrific. Okay, that's it. Any other comments?
is that all?
you guys have any other questions?
No, it looks great, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, meeting adjourned.